Welcome back to Sonic Creations, everyone. So today I wanted to go through every single Sonic racing game minus Sonic Drift. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, there's not a whole lot going on in Sonic Drift. Okay? I don't think there's much to discuss there. I mean, I do remember playing Drift, but we're not gonna get into that. But anyway, we're gonna go through in chronological order, starting with Sonic R, and then going to Sonic Riders, and then Riders Zero Gravity, and so forth and so on. And I'm gonna give you my brief thoughts, and what I really liked about each of these titles, and what I hope would return in the future in some form or fashion, whether that be with a CrossWorlds sequel, or like the next racing game. I guess it depends on how well CrossWorlds does, if they're actually gonna do a sequel of that or not. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, before I get into Sonic R, I do want to preface it with this.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
So take me back in time to another world, then you can be mine.
I have a bias. I love this game. I grew up with it. It's a part of my childhood. I'm very nostalgic for it. I see past its faults. I see the good parts of it more than I see the negative aspects of it. I just want to be clear about that before I get into why I think this is one of the best Sonic racing games. Maybe not in terms of multiplayer. Like, I think the two-player mode was fun. I think. But this is one of those racing games that I actually prefer to play single player because I like going through the game and just seeing if I can collect all the Chaos Emeralds and all the character tokens in one run through the levels, right? So like getting enough rings to open those ring doors to get to the Chaos Emeralds, at the same time going out of your way to collect the tokens, so kind of taking the long path or a deviating path. It's very challenging to see if you can at least get second place, if not first, while also taking your time to go out of your way to get these collectibles. I think that this collectible race with the characters on foot, there's something about it that I think is really, really special, and I've not seen any other racing game, let alone a Sonic racing game, tackle this same type of style. It very much feels like a Sonic game where you repeat the same level layout until you collect everything, and you have 3 rounds to collect everything, and you have to be the first to pass the finish line. So I think what the future Sonic racing games could learn from Sonic R is maybe just that having the game feel like a traditional Sonic game with higher paths, lower paths, and secret paths, but just making it feel like, hey, you're playing a Sonic game, but you're also racing. And when you're controlling the characters on foot, it just makes it feel more like a regular Sonic platformer, right? Which I think for the time when the Sega Saturn came out, it was lacking in a main Sonic title, as we know with what happened with Sonic Extreme being canceled, which was supposed to be the main Sonic title for the Saturn. Instead, the closest thing we got was Sonic Jam and Sonic R. And Sonic Jam was really a tech demo for Sonic Adventure, but Sonic R was a racing platformer hybrid. You can go out of your way to get some extra collectibles to unlock characters, unlock Super Sonic and Super Forms in general for other characters. I think it adds a sense of replay value to these levels that otherwise are, they're very short and very repetitive. Sweet, but short, and I think that's what Sonic R really is at its core. It's something that is sweet but short and has a lot of potential for it to be something really great and really special if there was just more time put into it and it was given that AAA treatment, if you will. I think that this could be a really, really cool concept where you're kind of playing through what feels like a Sonic level, and then all of a sudden, you're racing against your friends in the same level. Sonic R was definitely on to something, and I would love to see it return. I really did think that that's what they were going with in CrossWorlds, is that they were going to have all 3 different styles of racing, which is like on foot racing, extreme gear, and the karts, right? But they just won't do it. And I get it, I really do, Sonic would cheat because he's faster than literally every other character. Moving on, Sonic Riders. This game is also one of my favorite Sonic racing games, and another one that does not get enough love and has not seen a proper return yet. Yes, the extreme gear is coming back in CrossWorlds, as I've said before, but it's not quite the same. It doesn't control quite the same as it did before. There's none of those wind tunnels, there's not as many many tricks you can do. It's maybe looking at Riders on its surface, it seems like a pretty simple game, but really, you know, it's about timing and rhythm, and you gotta be focused and locked in, you know, to really play the game well and successfully. For most of these games, especially some of the older ones I haven't played in a while, I did replay through them. So having recently played through Sonic Riders, I'm very much still of the same mindset that this is one of the best Sonic racing games. Heck, even just one of the best racing games. It's so much fun, and I know we're not here to talk about aesthetics and the way the characterization is done or anything like that in this video, but I do like the way those things are done in this game, if I could just say. And also, this game has a really fun story. I don't really look at story for a Sonic racing game, but the fact that they took the time to make a whole set of new characters with Jet, Wave, and Storm, but also designed all these new areas of the Sonic world we've never seen before that look so futuristic and slick and cool, and then the extreme gear, and like there was so much they had to come up with for this game. It really makes you respect it a lot more. It has such a distinct style that people are still raving about to this day. I mean, the opening intro for this game that's like 2D animated should speak for itself. I mean, when you watch that, you just know exactly what you're in for. And I think the trick mechanics and, you know, different characters allowing you to go in different paths, and with Knuckles breaking through walls, with Tails flying through the dash rings, there's so much replay value for those reasons. And I think that with the characters each having their own special ability, it holds that same core Sonic gameplay that I was referencing in my coverage of Sonic R. Both of these titles keep the core Sonic gameplay. You're still collecting rings and item capsules. It still feels like you're going through a Sonic level. It does not lose the DNA of what makes a Sonic game so that it can then be a racing game. It's a hybrid just the same as Sonic R was. I mean, this is one of the core principles of making a Sonic game, is that each of the characters, if you have multiple characters and it's not just Sonic who's playable, you have to give them different qualities, different things that add a different angle to the gameplay, that allow you to explore different areas, that allow you to take certain shortcuts you couldn't before. I think these things are really, really important in Sonic games, even racing games, and I think this game does it really, really well. If there's anything to learn from Sonic Riders, it's that don't be afraid to do something original. As a matter of fact, you should embrace that. You know, I know kart racer is just the more popular thing, but I think that this, if given the proper time and care, it could be brought back in a major way. Moving on, Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. So with this game, it introduces a gravity mechanic as sort of like this drift to get around sharp corners and whatnot. I think that the mechanic is really, really well done and well incorporated, but I understand that for some, it distracts or takes away from the main gameplay. Initially in Sonic Riders, you already did have a drift, so this is just for like those really sharp turns. So the tracks are kind of designed differently and designed around this gravity mechanic. But I think it's really cool. It expands on the story from Riders. It really does show us quite literally what Sonic Riders would be as a franchise, right? Not just as a one-off game. If it had sequels, they could introduce these different, really fun gameplay mechanics that are more experimental. And I would just like to go ahead and add that Sonic Team is so experimental in general. Like, they are very experimental with their racing games, with their platformers. Like, I will always commend them for that they are not afraid to experiment and try different things, try new things. I mean, name one other game like Sonic Riders and Zero Gravity. Both those games just are so unique, and this one specifically with its gravity shifting, you know, position mechanic, I really think that that is something that could even be brought back in a future mainline Sonic game, those gravity bracelets. Like, just imagine you're in Frontiers and you can just go buy that from the shop, and then all of a sudden you can do these really cool slow motion drift turns, like, or heck, they could even just bring back the extreme gear and put those in like the Frontier sequel as like an unlockable thing. Like, you collect the parts in the open world and then you can put it together and it feels like Sonic Riders, but even better. I mean, that would be best case scenario, but anyway. Again, it's just the Sonic franchise just takes those risks, and they seem to usually pay off. And I think the Riders franchise is one of those times where I'm like, yeah, I would have loved to have seen them iterate on this gameplay style more and more and add in different mechanics. And I would maybe prefer them to go back to more of the core gameplay from the first Riders game. So maybe I don't like this one as much as I like the first one, but at the same time, there's more here. There's more characters, there's more tracks, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, great game, and definitely takes the cutscenes and the storytelling to the next level from its predecessor. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Oh man, the nostalgia I feel for this one. I think this one might be one of my guilty pleasures in terms of, I understand this is not everyone's favorite. Usually people go to Transformed, which I agree. Transformed is the better game. Transformed is amazing. But this one, again, it's like Sonic R. I just have so much nostalgia for it. I love the tracks and the way they're designed. It doesn't have original voice lines, so they do just rip voice lines from the previous Sonic games and just use them here. I don't know why. Maybe they weren't sure how well this game was gonna do, and so they didn't want to like throw in a crazy budget. I don't know. But the characters will say really weird, out of line stuff because it's just random clips that they've dragged from the previous games, and it makes for some awkward moments, to say the least. Where it lacks in story and characterization presentation, those are words you can put together, it makes up for it in raw gameplay, just really fun. And for the very first time, I can say that I think this is where they started to win a lot of people over with their racing games, like compared to Mario Kart, for example. Definitely one of my favorites of all time, and I love that we have other characters from Sega, not just from Sonic, right? We have Billy Hatcher, we have the Bonanza Bros, like what the heck? Like what a deep cut. Like where do these guys come from and where have they been, honestly? And so many others like Ryu and so yeah, it's definitely one of those Sonic racing games that is a gem and is always so fun to go back and play. Moving on to Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed. Probably the longest title, and I'm glad we're going away from that because I'm sick and tired of these long ass Sonic and Sega All-Stars titles, man, you know. Anyway, this is the best Sonic racing game so far. As of right now, in my personal opinion, Transformed is the best one in my book in terms of like, this is such a fun party game. This is a game that you can play with your friends, and it has online. I'm not sure if the original had online. I think it did, but I know that Transform does for sure. And this mechanic is so good that now for Mario Kart World, all these years later, Nintendo is busting it out like it's a new thing that they invented. Yeah, not so fast, buddy. Acting like they're revolutionizing the no. Sonic did it first, and it did it better. And last but not least, but maybe liked the very least, Team Sonic Racing. We've now entered a new era with this game. Thank God we finally got rid of that title, but now we're just back to calling it Sonic R again. It's also interesting to see how this has come full circle. It started with Sonic R, which is really Sonic Racing, and now it's Sonic Racing again. I think that's what it should be. It even brings back that R logo in the newer logo, which I think is a nice callback to Sonic R. So I really do appreciate that, but I do think it's a little bit odd that they brought that back, but not necessarily the gameplay of Sonic R back, just the logo. Like, it's like kind of confusing. Like, why would you do that? Like, what about this is anything like Sonic R other than the fact that they're both racing games with Sonic in it? So anyway, minor nitpick. Now let's get into the real problems with this. I like the idea. I don't know how to say this nicely. I sometimes forget this game exists and I'm reminded of it and I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. It's just so whatever. For me personally, I play a lot of these games single player, you know, before I get the chance to play them with friends. And so I just don't like the fact at all that it's, you know, a team-based thing and other players could drag you down, for example, if, you know, and it's just like, I get what they were going for and maybe some people liked it out there. Let me know what you guys think about it, but this one has been the most controversial to me of like, yeah, like I like the levels, I like the graphics, I like the music. You know, I like a lot of things about this game. Man, I couldn't care less about the actual gameplay, which is where it really matters, right? This one is a bit of a disappointment for sure, and I'd have to put it lowest on my list in my head of like my favorite racing games, just because it doesn't really do much for me, and I don't find it to be very fun. But it's a good example, though, that like Sonic Team is always trying to do something new, to reinvent the formula, and to make these games more fun and interactive. So, you know, I don't hate it for those reasons of what it attempts to do, I just don't think it executed whatever it was trying to do very well. So that concludes my thoughts on all of these Sonic racing games that I have played that are in like the modern era. So that about sums it up for this video. I do want to just say that I have played CrossWorlds. I don't want to give my full thoughts until I actually play the full game, but I enjoyed it. It was really fun. Me and my friends had a blast, but I think that it hasn't 100% won me over as like, this is the best Sonic racing game. Like, I don't have that feeling yet. Maybe it will come from playing the full game and just getting more into it and unlocking more abilities. And I mean, the game's got depth. you know, I'll definitely give it that. There's a lot of different modifications that will suit your gameplay style that you can customize. And hopefully there's just more customization in general for like outfits, and you know, we all want the Ryder Sonic outfit and all the other characters' Extreme Gear outfits. I think that's just, you know, we got to be dressed for the X-World Grand Prix. You know, if we're gonna have the Extreme Gear come back, then you know, we gotta have that. But anyway, thank you guys so much if you made it through this whole video. I really appreciate it. Sonic Cybernetics Episode 7, Part 1 of the finale is coming soon. Development is going very well. It was a little bit of a slow start, but I'm in the groove, and I'm really excited to share more information as I make more progress. But until then, stay tuned, and thanks again.